There is absolutely something different in the air going from one generation to another. I was here a decade plus ago covering Nintendo when they went from the Wii to the Wii U. I covered Nintendo 7 years ago plus when they went from the Nintendo Wii U to the Nintendo Switch, and I guess the 3DS to the Switch as well. And it has progressively gotten better and better. But this time, there's something that is completely different that I'd probably say in the whole history of me being on the internet and covering Nintendo. And I'd even say dating back before that, when I'm looking at magazines or when I'm looking at the temperature of gamers when I talk to them in person back in the day, this is probably the weirdest and best feeling that I've seen for just overall development, gamers, and everything going from one system to another with Nintendo in particular. The Nintendo Switch 2 has developers excited. Obviously, it has gamers excited. And I think that there's been a number of things that have shown this shift that nobody's playing around when it comes to the success or potential success that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to have or could have, and how this time developers actually are going to try and strive for that. Instead of being a hands-off, oh, we're looking back and kind of seeing how things play out, I think it's going to be very different. It's going to be very much, at least with Japanese developers and developers who make certain types of games, independent games, they're going to be very proactive with this system and aid to it doing very well early in its life, which we haven't seen for Nintendo probably since like the Super Nintendo days or something, maybe the DS here and there. It's been a long time and it's very, I would say, not common for that to be a thing. But before we get into that, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. And let's go ahead and jump into what I'm talking about here about the Nintendo Switch 2 having these developers excited, ready to go when it comes to the Nintendo Switch successor. Now, we did get some articles and we've seen some stuff here and there. Ubisoft talking about how they're going to have an updated version of Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope for the Nintendo Switch 2. And I'd probably think that they're going to also do Mario plus Rabbids and probably have a double pack ready to go with all the DLC, everything included for $60 for the Nintendo Switch 2. But then we also had Amazon Games come out and say, yeah, we're excited, we're ready. You know, even if they have to wait for 2025, it's all good. Like, this is something that we're excited to support. So that's two pretty good sized developers or publishers there. Then we also have a bunch of other developers that have said comments here and there. Nothing big, because obviously NDAs and all of that. I've spoken to a few developers myself on the smaller side that are very excited. And the thing to me that kind of sealed this was the Nintendo Switch 1. So I know some of you guys are thinking, wait a minute, the Nintendo Switch 1, what does that mean? Well, allow me to explain. We had the most recent Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. This is essentially for third-party developers. Pretty much all this stuff is third-party developers. And you would think at this point with the Nintendo Switch being this old and people saying, oh, the sales are declining and there's not as much big third-party AAA developers, which is all true, by the way, which is all true. Still selling really good for the system being that old. And yes, AAA third-party developers obviously can't make all their stuff for the Nintendo Switch, and that's completely understandable when it comes down to it. But the amount of big publishers or developers that's still committed to supporting this system even this late shows that there's going to be a smooth transition, shows that they want to get in with the Nintendo fans right now because they know in the future something good's coming up, and we know about some of the features that have been rumored when it comes to going from Switch 1 to Switch 2, which we will get into in just a bit. So if you look at that Nintendo Direct, yes, there was a lot of different games. Maybe you didn't care about some of them, whatever the case is, but seeing stuff like Yakuza from Sega after this many years, this is just something that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen to see that type of support, especially for a system that late with this franchise. This is something that Yakuza, the developers, have come out and said, hey, we're not sure about it. We don't know if it can even sell. They've said all this stuff. Now all of a sudden, it's on the system. $20, digital only, first one, Kiwami. But hey, that is better than nothing. And it's pretty cool to finally have a mainline big Yakuza game on the Nintendo Switch when people have been saying, where's it at? All generation. You look at something like Eternites. That was recently confirmed for the Nintendo Switch. They had 200,000 units sold across the PC and PlayStation platforms, and now they just said, hey, look, boom, here it is, October 18th. So that's a pretty good port coming over. Next up, out of nowhere, even though you would think that this game might be inside of a presentation, Guilty Gear Strive. Surprise, there's a banner. So they announced it via banner at PAX West. And obviously the developers knew, the publisher knew, everyone knew. They're the ones who put up the banner. So that was kind of just like a shock. Wait a minute. We're getting an announcement for a big game that has sold 1 million plus units across PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. We're getting an announcement via banner at PAX West with a QR code attached to it with pre-orders going live soon, it seems. So not only are they having these announcements, but they're finding interesting ways to get them done, whether it's through presentations, just announcing it on social media, or putting it up on banners at conventions. There's all sorts of things that are happening. You look at Atelier Yumiya. That game looks awesome. That game obviously is pushing what they're doing with the Atelier franchise to the limits. They're still supporting the Nintendo Switch. Rune Factory, they have a console exclusive with the Nintendo Switch at this point. So late into the life. Guardians of Azuma, that's coming. That looks really good. Looks like a different take on the Rune Factory gameplay. It looks like it's going to be their most in-depth Rune Factory to date. That was built off of them selling so many copies of Rune Factory on the Nintendo Switch. And I think that the biggest thing that kind of proves what I'm talking about here in terms of the Nintendo Switch and the smooth transition, which we'll get into once again, is The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky the First. This one's actually pretty huge because you would think, right, at this point, you have the PlayStation 5, you have the Xbox Series, you have PC, you can do all these graphic stuff, all this cool stuff that you can do, right? The Nintendo Switch, obviously, not as powerful as those systems. But Falcom has stated that this is an exclusive for right now at this point. Remember, this is a PlayStation-centric developer. They've always been known for the last decade plus for doing PlayStation first, then recently getting into Nintendo. Recently starting to say, okay, we're going to get the development kits in-house. So to see a remake of a beloved game that people have been waiting for, that is so in tune with the PlayStation base, for them to see, to read the room, to read what's going on. You see the sales numbers in Japan. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You see it there. It's clearly shifted towards the Nintendo Switch, best-selling platform of all time there. So if you're looking at it in that way, it's like, oh man, there is a real shift and excitement for even the Nintendo Switch this late in its life, obviously because of the units that it sold, but also getting in with the Nintendo fans for what's going to be next, because you're going to have your Switch 2 ports. You're going to have your Switch 2 updates. I wouldn't be surprised if all of these games receive some type of patch or another version to run on the Nintendo Switch 2 and to have updates to the quality of the game. So they're getting in at this point. And once again, you never saw this with Nintendo beforehand. In the last year or so of Nintendo systems before, it was dry, a wasteland, nothing. Devs would just leave. There'd be nothing left. Heck, even Nintendo themselves would do that. Going from the Wii to the Wii U, go back and look at that last year. I think all it was Just Dance for the Wii. Nintendo had Zelda, and they're like, all right, we're out. There was pretty much nothing else. Even with the Wii U, Nintendo did supply some more games or so here and there, but third parties were out well before that. With the Nintendo 3DS, third parties were also out well before the end of the 3DS as well. But with the Nintendo Switch, you're still getting announcements. You're still getting more stuff. You're still getting developers that want to get in because they know, they have talked to Nintendo. They have seen what's coming next. They know that it's going to be something that they financially is a good idea to get invested in. So they're going to take the time to port that Dragon engine. They're going to take the time to port Eternites. They're going to take the time to make a game like Guilty Gear Strive, which is definitely not the most complex game, but it's a 2D fighter with some nice 3D renders in there. It's got a lot of cool graphical techniques. It's not like it's a small indie game or something like that. To take the time and effort to port over these titles and to even have a flagship franchise like The Legend of Heroes that's been known for something, and then saying, hey, we're having an exclusive built for the Nintendo Switch. That's why it looks so good from what they've shown, because they actually said, we got the dev kits, we're building it ourselves. It's not just going to be a port of the PlayStation 4 version of the game. To have that this late in the life just shows you why they're so excited and what's going to be happening. Otherwise, none of this stuff would be happening at all. Now, if you look at it, the Nintendo Switch is still the top selling system in Japan weekly. And the prices for the PlayStation 5 are skyrocketing. They've had, what, 3 price hikes in the past 4 years that the system's been out? That's pretty crazy. The Nintendo Switch, you're able to buy multiple Switches for the same price as the PlayStation 5 in Japan for the disc-based version. And the fact that the Nintendo Switch is still selling as good as it is 8 years on. Don't get me wrong, I love my PlayStation 5. I just beat SMT5 with 154 hours plus, and I'll have a review for you guys on the PS5, and it's great on there. Still play other games on there too. Fantastic hardware. But at the end of the day, they're looking at what's going on and the trends, and the developers are following those trends. Doesn't mean they're going to stop supporting PS5. PS5 is still a pillar when it comes down to it. But now they're really kind of incorporating Nintendo into this in ways that they never did before, like I've talked about with all this other stuff. If you also look at it, software, the top 10 in Japan, don't ever really see PlayStation games. Sometimes you see them, but for the most part, it's Nintendo games. And top 30 will be a lot of Nintendo games, barely any PlayStation. So the software sales also point in that direction for many of these devs. If you're looking at the active user base, Nintendo reported over 100 million active users for the last quarter, in addition to 30 million pieces of software sold over that same time period, past 3 months. If you're looking at the Switch, over 1.2 billion units of software, shattering the previous record held by the Nintendo DS's 948.76 million. So people are buying software at a super high clip. The system is still doing really well, and I think that that confidence and that money, because that's really what it comes down to, is the money and the sales, is giving them more confidence than ever that Nintendo's going to get things right when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, because it's not a wasteland at this point, like it usually is, even with these other systems. The DS was a wasteland towards the end. All you had was like Pokemon games and stuff. I mean, you had some stuff here and there, but for the most part, nah, you didn't see stuff on the quality of like Atelier or The Legend of Heroes or Guilty Gear Strive or Yakuza. Like, you didn't see stuff like that. There was some, but not quite to this level in terms of the content that's coming out. Now, it does seem like Nintendo is going to have a smooth transition plan from the Switch to the Switch successor, and I think that's what's giving a lot of these developers confidence. It would suck if you took your time and effort to port over, let's say, Yakuza, and then all of a sudden the new users can't play it on there. Just like if you took your time and effort to put, like, let's say, PlayStation 4 games or make a PS4 version, because of that base, then, oh, you can't play that on PS5. That would suck. Same thing with Xbox, right? So I think it makes sense that it does seem like that transition has been relayed to the developers, and they feel confident that they can release their games now, and then those people who get it later, they'll be fine too, or people that just want to play it on Switch, they can do that as well. Even if you look at it from Nintendo's case, this is something that they usually don't do. You look at big titles like Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Mario Party, Mario and Luigi Brothership, which seems like the last full year of the Nintendo Switch being the main system. Once again, more games than they've ever done in the last year of the next system probably coming out. Nintendo's already stated that Nintendo accounts are going to be transferred over to the next system. So your games, your settings, all the stuff, that's all going there. And it looks like with that, there's been reports too of backwards compatibility for the Nintendo Switch 2, and this is marking the first time in Nintendo's history that you don't have to start all over with your accounts or your digital games. You usually got to start all over. They've had backwards compatibility before, but you got to start all over if there's anything digital. And this time, that's not going to be the case. So if you're looking at everything that I've tallied up here, you're looking at all this different stuff, this just breeds some type of excitement that gamers, in my opinion, and developers, like the symbiotic both of us, right, put together. This type of excitement has not been seen before on both sides overall when it comes down to what's going on with Nintendo going into the next system. It's crazy. It's good overall. I think that if you look at the sales numbers when it comes to PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and stuff. We need Nintendo in here doing good things as well. We need Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, PC. We need all of that. But definitely having Nintendo be healthy and creating great games and having more places for people to buy their games is absolutely good for the gaming industry overall as a whole. And of course, good for gamers who want to support more games, of course, anywhere that they want or whatever the case is. So what do you guys think overall about what I had to say here with the Nintendo Switch 2 and devs getting excited for what's happening here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch and RPG videos right here. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.